Welcome, kindred spirit. I'm Diane, and this is my channel, Cultivate Life, period. I'm a longtime spiritual mentor sharing what I know with kindred spirits, like you, who resonate with my perspective. My intention is to plant seeds that leave you feeling uplifted, empowered, and fearless, and expanding your life experience towards love. Today we're going to travel deep, way down and way up the emotional spectrum. This is an exploration of what's next, of what healing might look like when we are no longer tethered to the same old societal rules. Healing isn't about playing whack-a-mole with injustices. It's about recognizing that when we address the roots of one, we begin to entangle many. It has been disheartening, to say the least, to see how quickly societal progress has been dismantled in the U.S. And yet, it confirms a theory I've held since I first learned how to read. Patriarchy and white supremacy were never eradicated. They simply shape-shifted. Specifically, the U.S. has been at this choice point in the not-too-distant past. As I watched the January 6th insurrection unfold, my immediate thought was, this is how our Civil War began. My second thought, this is how it happened in Germany too. I was born into a family with deep roots in that history. I only know some of the secrets of my family of origin, but I know enough. And from a young age, I sensed that I was alive to break my generational chains, and that's really how it felt, not knowing for a really long time what that meant. Even as a child, I sensed that history was written by the victors, and the victors of violence get to decide what is recorded and what is erased. This never lined up for me. I could feel it before I had the language to articulate it. Did you ever feel something was off, even before you had the words for it? From patriarchy's perspective of how humans learn, children are deemed too young to think thoughts like that. But the human experience isn't just about thought. We are vibrational before we are physical. Babies are born fluent in vibrational communication. Humans are tasked with teaching babies how to function in a three-dimensional world. The patriarchal rule makers have long insisted they know best, and deciding with certainty what each human's life purpose should be. And here we are in 2025, still insisting that the way to peace is by beating and berating humans into submission and crowing, we've saved their souls. The bystander effect is how the status quo flourishes. It's the tendency for people to remain passive in situations where intervention is needed, often assuming someone else will step in. While this phenomenon is often discussed in emergencies, it also plays a profound role in maintaining societal structures, particularly patriarchy and white supremacy. Despite the persistence of patriarchy and white supremacy, we have seen progress in many areas, evidence that change is not only possible, but already unfolding. The civil rights movement laid the foundation for today's racial justice efforts. While systemic racism persists, collective awareness has grown. Movements like Black Lives Matter have exposed deeply rooted inequities and demanded accountability, not just from institutions, but from individuals. And like many movements, Black Lives Matter has faced both powerful impact and internal critique, reminding us that progress is rarely tidy. It's layered, evolving, and still unfolding. Second wave feminism pushed for workplace rights, reproductive autonomy, and legal equality. Today, those conversations continue to deepen, stretching into intersectionality, consent, and unlearning the quieter ways patriarchy still plays out. This isn't a finished chapter. It's a call to revisit who gets included in the word we. The first Earth Day in 1970 marked a shift in environmental consciousness. Since then, climate justice has grown into a global dialogue, one that increasingly centers on indigenous knowledge and community resilience. The movement is no longer just about recycling. It's about rebalancing our relationship with the planet and each other. Meditation, yoga, and Eastern philosophies began seeding Western consciousness in the 1960s. Now, conversations about trauma healing, nervous system regulation, and embodied presence are transforming how we think about human growth. At its best, this shift reminds us that healing isn't just individual. It's collective, relational, and deeply spiritual. The Stonewall riots in 1969 ignited the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. Decades later, the push for gender inclusivity, bodily autonomy, and belonging continues to expand. Visibility has increased, yet safety and dignity are still not guaranteed, especially for trans people and queer communities of color. The work is far from over, and love remains a radical force. Indigenous activism has gained momentum, pushing for land rights, environmental stewardship, and cultural revitalization. Movements like Land Back and the growing presence of Indigenous voices in politics and media signal a rising awareness. Justice requires returning what was taken, not just acknowledging what was lost. Each of these movements invites us deeper into the same truth. Liberation is not a solo pursuit, but a shared path we walk together, where infinite possibilities await. Patriarchy thrives on silence. Women are socialized to avoid confrontation, to be agreeable, not to make a fuss. Or actually, it's more like, don't make a fuss. This conditioning discourages them from speaking up when misogyny, harassment, or gender-based violence occurs. Whether it's brushing off an inappropriate comment in a meeting or staying silent, when a male partner dismisses their opinion, the bystander effect reinforces patriarchal power, keeping women complicit in their own subjugation. And there's more. Patriarchal structures reward those who comply. Speaking out has consequences. The fear of alienation keeps women locked in patterns of inaction. A powerful illustration of the bystander effect, especially as it relates to white women's complicity, comes from historical fiction. Sue Monk Kidd's novel, The Invention of Wings, brings this reality to life through the intertwined stories of Sarah Grimke and Hetty Handful. In The Invention of Wings, we follow two girls, Sarah Grimke, a privileged white child from a wealthy Charleston slaveholding family, and Hetty Handful, a young black girl who was given to Sarah as a birthday gift on her 11th birthday. This horrifying transaction was not only legal, but common practice in the antebellum South, where enslaved black children were often treated as property, their lives predetermined by the economic and social structures designed to uphold white supremacy. Sarah recoils at the notion of owning another human being. Yet despite her early moral discomfort, she remains enmeshed in the very system she recognizes as wrong. She resists in small ways, but the weight of societal expectations, her family's position, her own fear, and the limitations placed on women keeps her largely in compliance much of her early life. Meanwhile, Hetty grows up navigating a world of forced servitude, secrecy, and quiet rebellion, carrying the legacy of generations before her who fought to survive in a world built to erase their autonomy. While The Invention of Wings is based on the real-life story of Sarah Grimke, a white woman who became an abolitionist and women's rights advocate, Hetty's story is a fictionalized composite, pieced together from historical research, oral histories, and accounts of enslaved women. And therein lies the deeper truth. History, as it has been recorded, centers on the perspectives and experiences of white people. Sarah's story is documented. Her transformation from reluctant participant to outspoken activist is preserved in letters and speeches. Hetty, however, is a stand-in for the millions of black women whose stories were never written, whose resistance was erased by omission, and whose voices were deliberately excluded from the historical record. This selective storytelling mirrors a broader pattern of erasure. White women's contributions to social justice movement have often been recorded, while black women, who were instrumental in these same struggles, have been sidelined. We see this in the suffrage movement, where white suffragists, eager to secure voting rights, chose to distance themselves from black women, believing that their inclusion would make it harder to pass the 19th Amendment. Instead of using their platform to challenge both sexism and racism, many white women chose the bystander role, opting for progress that benefited them while leaving black women behind. The act of omission is one of the most insidious forms of erasure. It allows the dominant narrative to persist unchallenged, reinforcing the idea that only certain voices matter. When history books highlight white abolitionists while glossing over the relentless work of black women in the fight for freedom, they perpetuate a version of history that serves white comfort rather than truth. When white feminists claim victories without acknowledging the sacrifices and labor of black women, they continue a pattern of exclusion that dates back centuries. This is the bystander effect at work. Not just in moments of crisis, but in the slow, steady shaping of cultural memory. The stories we tell, the names we remember, and the movements we credit all shape our collective understanding of justice and progress. White women, whether we intend to or not, have played the largest role of bystander in this process, benefiting from change without fully recognizing with the ways our silence, omissions, and compromises have prolonged the oppression of others. If history has shown us anything, it is that the bystander effect is a choice, one that can be unlearned. White women have the opportunity and the responsibility to move beyond passive acknowledgement and into getting this thing going and stepping up and being visible. This means challenging the narratives that center whiteness, uplifting the voices that have been excluded, and refusing to remain silent when injustice demands action. History is always being written. The question is, will you have the courage to shape it differently? If the bystander effect has historically empowered both patriarchy and white supremacy, how do we disrupt it? I happen to have a couple of ideas on how to go about that. Recognize the pattern. Silence is not neutral. It's a choice that allows harm to continue. Challenge patriarchy in daily life. Speak up in meetings. set boundaries in relationships, refuse to conform to outdated gender expectations. Break generational silence. Many white women were raised in homes where racism or sexism was ignored, dismissed, or normalized. Acknowledging this and unlearning it is essential. Take collective action. Individual resistance matters, but lasting change comes from community. Support policies and movements that actively dismantle oppression. The best place to start is right where you are, kindred spirit. No matter your gender, race, or identity, my wish is that this story gives you the confidence to help shape future generations, not through fear, through love. If this message resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe. It's free and helps expand these perspectives. Let's continue healing and growing together. I hope this conversation plants a seed for a deeper reflection. Until next time, see you down the path.